Am I the asshole? For not taking my cousin's stepkids out with me when I take her daughter? My cousin Jay got pregnant when she was 19. She was out of high school and lived with our grandparents. It was not a good time for her. Her half-brother and I were both in grade 12 and we had jobs. We decided to help her out. Of our own free will. No one asked us to or asked us for money. We just love her and knew she needed support. She had a girl named Callie. We helped buy diapers and formula. We babysat so Jay could work and go out every once in a while. Jay met a nice guy and married him 2 years ago. He has 2 kids from a previous relationship that he gets on the weekends. Callie is 12 now and I still hang out with her. Lately Jay has been asking me to take out her stepkids when I take Callie out. I told her no. I don't really know those kids and I don't really want to be responsible for them. I like spoiling my little cousin but that's it. She has been great practice for when I have kids. Plus I love being a bad influence on her. I just took her skeet shooting and we are going to an axe throwing place where you can also use knives or throwing stars. Jay says that I'm creating a schism between her kids because Callie comes back from hanging out with me and the other kids get jealous. She says I should take all the kids or stop doing stuff with Callie. Callie heard her and she may have picked up some language from me because she was very vocal about her displeasure. My mom thinks I should take the kids. I said I would if she would come keep an eye on them around the axes, knives and throwing stars. She said we could take the kids to a bouncy play area. I said she could take the kids there while Callie and I did our thing and we could catch up after. She said I was missing the point. I don't think I need to include those kids. Not the asshole, you have a special bond with Callie, not with her stepkids. Kids need to learn to manage disappointment and this is a great opportunity for them to get some practice in. Not everything in life is fair and equal, and that can be painful to accept, but it is also a reality that we must accept in life. Not the asshole if the dad has the kids only on the weekends, then he needs to spend time with them on the weekends and not dump them on you. Sounds like Jay and the new man in her life want kid-free weekends and for you to foot the bill. Not the asshole. Does your cousin's husband's family take Callie when they take his kids? I'm guessing not. They have their own family. Not the asshole. I hate when people act like blending a family means that they can never do anything alone anymore. Emo Callie is allowed to get away from her step-siblings if she wants to. It's honestly probably a very healthy outlet for her given her mom's attitude towards it. Plus it's really unreasonable for her to expect you to do it alone. But this here is Emo the important tidbit. She wants time to herself, which is why she's harping in this. I would bet it has nothing to with the other kids, everything to do with the fact that your time with Callie is no longer a break for her. Not the asshole. Since Mr. Nice Guy only gets his kids on weekends, presumably his stepkids have relationships that Callie isn't a part of. I think it's okay for Callie to have relationships that the stepkids aren't a part of. When Callie spends time with you, then the stepkids get more undivided attention from their dad, right? Isn't that a good thing? Not the asshole. If it's causing problems, then really, Jay and her husband should be handling those problems so that Callie doesn't suffer by losing her close relationship with you. Not the asshole. You already have an established bond with Callie. You shouldn't need to establish a new bond with every new person in Jay's life because she wants you to. She's not entitled to dictate your relationships. Not the asshole. If Callie is 12 and the stepkids are young enough for a bouncy castle, it isn't the same thing at all. They are way too young for the things that Opie and Callie are doing. All Jay is going to do is make calls, resent the young ones. If Jay wants some time, she should hire a babysitter because Opie and her mom aren't up for it. Not the asshole. Her saying you're missing the point is almost comedic. It was and still is your decision who you spend your time and money on. You do this because you have a connection with her, not just because they're your cousin's kid. The other kids need to understand that they can't always have the things they want, so does the cousin. She can't just expect you to do these things. She basically wants you to be a free babysitter and is taking away something meaningful from her daughter if you don't comply, and after everything you've done for her, that is entirely disrespectful. Nata. I think they are the ones missing the point. Her husband has custody of his kids during the weekend. If anyone needs to step up and take them places and do fun things with them, it's him. If he doesn't want to, then he should just give their mom full custody. Besides, I don't think their mom will be happy, as she knew he gets to see them 2 days a week, and instead of him doing something with them, a person she probably doesn't know is watching them. Not the asshole. It's your cousin's responsibility to nurture the relationship between her child and her stepchildren. I've been in your position. I helped and supported until a new guy moved in and was then cast as the villain because I didn't treat him the same as I treated my cousin. Rinse and repeat. I finally came to the realization that how I chose to spend my time and money is my right. As was her right to determine how people interacted with her child. I hope you are able to come to a compromise. Not the asshole. Unless Jay consulted you before getting into a relationship with this guy and his baggage and asked for your permission, then you have no ties or obligation to anyone other than Callie. Info: how old are your step-cousins? They sound very young if your mother is suggesting a bouncy play area. Not the asshole. You're not obligated to babysit some dude's kids for free just because he's fucking your cousin. Not the asshole. Your sister chose to marry a man with 2 children. When they are in her house, she needs to treat them age appropriately equally to her child. You have a strong pre-existing bond with Callie and Callie alone. Enjoy it. If your cousin is upset because her stepkids feel like they are missing out, then your cousin can take them out herself. Not the asshole. It is not your responsibility to teach Jay's stepchildren that life is not fair, and sometimes you don't get to do things other people are doing. It is also pretty fucked up that Jay is willing to cause damage to their own daughter for the sake of the stepchildren by saying it is all kids or nothing. Off topic, but can you be my big cousin? I'm in my mid-20s, but you sound awesome and I wanna try throwing sharp things at other things. Also, not the asshole. You're not the asshole. Jay says that I'm creating a schism between her kids because Callie comes back from hanging out with me and the other kids get jealous. Then maybe Jay and her husband need to devote some of their time interacting with the children they see 2 days a week and create some special events and memories. Things don't always seem fair. Not everyone gets to be included in every activity. Don't those younger children do things with their mom and that side of the family? Things Callie doesn't get to do? That's life. Rather than foisting the kids off on you, Jay and her husband need to handle this themselves. You are correct, you don't. It's the age-old we're all one family, you have to treat all the kids the same crap. But Callie is your second cousin you're close to since birth, and the others are your cousin's stepkids he only gets on weekends anyway, and they have nothing to do with you. Jay and your mom can do as many activities with Callie and the stepkids together as they like, not to mention their dad can. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Does Callie get to do whatever the kids do with their mum? Probably not. You invited her to come and bring the other kids, so she clearly isn't really worried about the kids, she just wants kid-free time with a free babysitter. BC they have the kids every weekend. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. You have a relationship with your relative. Steps don't have to be your concern. Sigh. Why do so many people think when they get married all the children become some weird sort of conjoined entity? They're individuals, they can be treated individually. Obviously don't blatantly neglect one for another. But at what point do parents just teach their kids that everything isn't for everybody, and how to deal? Cause guess what, in the real world you don't get everything you want just cause you want it. Callie's relationship you shouldn't have to suffer from forced togetherness. And if it does, well, imagine how happy Callie will be with her mom, stepdad, and step-sibs. Not the asshole. Am I the asshole? For telling my sister her childhood is the reason she's not always included in things? I'm 18 F. My older sister is 26. We are our half-sisters, as we share the same dad. We are the only kids to our dad. Our dad and her mom were once married. I wasn't born obviously, and when they divorced my sister lived with her mom 99 of the time. She grew up 4 hours away from us. I only saw her a week out of the year growing up. She would attend some holidays with our dad's side of the family. Once she graduated high school, 9 years ago, she lived with our dad and I was seeing her all the time. That's when we built our relationship. My mom and dad live in the same city, so I've always lived 50-50 with my parents. So we have an aunt and uncle on our side that I basically grew up with. Ever since I was 6 I've been staying summers with them out of state up until this year. They also have a son I'm 2 years apart from. They tried to have my sister for summers when she was a child, but because of whatever she never got to. The past 9 years my sister is finally around enough, just like I've been my whole life. I graduated this year and had a party our dad's side attended. My uncle, our dad's brother, booked a trip for us to go to Hawaii. His family and me. And I didn't know, my sister didn't know. I didn't want to bring it up at all. When our cousin brought it up at my party, my sister asked out loud, "You guys are going to Hawaii?" And it became awkward as hell. Our uncle and aunt kinda rushed in a room and I just quickly said yeah and walked away from the topic. I saw my aunt take her in a room and talk to her. I didn't know what they talked about, nor did I ask until my sister reached out to me yesterday. Basically she said she's had time to think about that day and said our aunt told her that she's an afterthought because they didn't get to build a relationship with her when she was young. And because of lost time things are kinda the way they are. My sister said to our aunt that since she's been around the family more now, it's ridiculous she excluded over such a thing she had no control over. She told me that she doesn't appreciate them playing favorites and excluding her and making excuses for it. Also that she didn't care about not going to Hawaii, it's the point. When they claim they wish they were closer to her. She said that they are potentially putting a wedge between us by doing things like this, and that as her sister, I should know how she feels. I told her this had nothing to do with me, and that our aunt has a point with her childhood being the biggest reason things are the way they are. I also told her she was wrong for thinking our aunt was playing favoritism. She told me it's a shame I don't see an issue with this, and that she looks at me different for siding with my aunt. Which I'm not even doing. She said she clearly can't talk to me about how she feels and it's crazy how I'm siding with someone that really hurt her. Just drama. Am I the asshole? You're the asshole. In fact, the only person who isn't an A here is your sister. You're one for undermining her feelings. That's a shitty thing to do. Your aunt and uncle are one for holding her childhood against her. She had no control over where she spent her time, but she's the one getting blamed and being told she's an afterthought. What the actual fuck? Your dad is the biggest star. He failed her. He failed to be a father to her. You can't be any sort of decent parent if you only see your kid one of the time. You're the asshole for brushing it off like it's nothing. Everyone in your family other than the sister are assholes. She's equally as much family as you are. You're the asshole. Part of calling her sister is having her back and making sure she's included. Aunt and uncle are for living in the past. Dad wins TA of the Year award for letting this happen. You're the asshole. Her childhood isn't her fault and it's cruel to blame her for her family favoring you and ignoring her. You are the golden child and you are getting things she never got, and that is objectively unfair. Why can't you at minimum acknowledge that? You're the asshole so your uncles from your dad's side who is also her fucking dad is excluding her? And you can't see how fucking terrible that is? Horrible sister. You're the asshole. You're the asshole. From what you've written, your sister advocated for herself in a very clear way to your aunt. Impressive. Your sister then shared this with you, dismissed her. I told her this had nothing to do with me, and that our aunt has a point with her childhood being the biggest reason things are the way they are. I also told her she was wrong for thinking our aunt was playing favoritism. This is such our behavior. You are taking your aunt's side. Your sister is absolutely correct. Someone told your sister to her face she's nothing but an afterthought for things that were outside her control when she was a child, and you said yep, that's true. You're the asshole. Wow. Yeah, you're the asshole. Everyone except your sister is an R, actually. As soon as your sister was old enough, she made an effort to get to know your dad's side of the family. She's spent the last 9 years doing that, and not only is she still excluded, but you dismiss her feelings as drama. At this point, I genuinely hope she walks away from you and your dad's side of the family. You all sound like terrible people and she'd be better off without you. You're the asshole. Why are you even on here? You don't even sound like you want a relationship with your sister, so why don't you and your family tell her that, so she can get over y'all and move on with her life? Your uncle and aunt are and you very inconsiderate of your sister's feelings. You're the asshole. She had zero control over where she lived growing up. You said you lived 4 hours away from her and maybe saw her once a year because she lived with her mom, which again was not her control. You and your dad's family sound bitter for whatever reason toward your sister for reasons that she couldn't control or choose. Maybe when you're older you'll see where her point is, because right now you aren't putting yourself in her shoes and just labeling her as drama. You're 18 years old, you know what you're doing. You're the asshole. You're the asshole. In so many spoiled, entitled this over and over again, princess. Your sister was left family's fault. She is still left family's fault. They make family's fault. You treat her like fault. You have the fucking nerve to call her the drama? WTF. Your aunt and uncle are horrible people and you are a horrible sister. I hope she gets therapy and writes you all off. She will be much better off with strangers who love her than with her phony ass, fake, two-faced, miserable excuse for a blood family. Sounds to me like they booked it for her graduation. While I can't call you TA because you are in the middle of something that adults around you should be handling, your sister is right when she says, she's been around the family more now. It's ridiculous she excluded over such a thing she had no control over. That's true. As to Hawaii, if your aunt and uncle are taking their kids and only you, that's fair for a graduation present. But otherwise, your sister is your father's daughter, as much as you are, and should be included in all of her father's family events as much as you are. I understand your sister feeling left out. No one should have to feel like an afterthought. They missed her childhood, but she has been around for 9 years, I believe you said. Now, the trip is another issue. That is your gift from your aunt and uncle. Graduation gift. To me, your sister should not have anticipated being treated to your graduation gift. If they were taking you out to a local restaurant for dinner, then yes, she should have been invited. But there is a big difference between a dinner and a trip to Hawaii. If your father wants her to go on the trip, he should pay for her. She's right. She had no control over her childhood, and it's extremely unfair how she's being treated. Of course, you wouldn't see what's wrong with it because you're getting special treatment. You're the asshole, and so is your aunt and uncle. Edit. Your father is also an R for allowing this to happen. You're the asshole for dismissing her feelings. It's been 9 years since she was able to try and integrate into your lives. You're lying to yourself if you think your aunt and uncles don't play favorites by excluding her. This is just another instance of her being excluded by your extended family, but this time, it is a bigger thing she's being excluded from, and she couldn't hold it anymore. Think about it, 9 years since she was more involved in your lives, and she's still treated by them like more like an acquaintance, and not like your sister. Info. Who is going to Hawaii? Many of the comments make it seem like some giant Home Alone trip where your entire extended family are going but sister isn't invited. The way I read it, seems like it is an uncle, aunt and their children op. If that is the case, OP is basically being invited along with their nuclear family vacation. Am I the asshole? For getting my grandparents to stop my dad giving his second daughter the same name as me? This might be a bit of a weird background, but hang on until I explain. My parents were young when they had me. My mom had no family of her own, and from the age of like 12, when she and my dad first got close, my dad's family became hers too. My parents dated all through high school and had me right after graduating. My mom died in her sleep when I was only 6 months old. She was 19. My dad was never interested in me, and he and my grandparents fought a lot from the time I was born to the time my mom died. They were disgusted with his lack of love or concern for me. They wanted him to be a better father than he was being, and apparently pointed out my mom was the same age as him and had stepped up. But he wasn't interested. After mom died, my grandparents were terrified that my dad would fuck me up. So they made a deal with him. They would get legal custody, they would raise me, and they would give him some money every month for him to do what he liked. I know it sounds strange, but they saw it as a way to keep him from me unless he was serious about being a dad. I never actually saw him at all when I was little. A couple of years ago I saw him from a distance for the first time. He had some woman with him. They later got married. I would see them around but decided to still keep my distance. His wife knew about me before they even married. Now they're having a baby girl, and my aunt was told by the wife that they wanted to name their baby Serenity, which is my name. She spoke to me about it because she wanted to warn me. The second I heard about this, I hated it. I saw so many issues because we would have the exact same name. I have no middle name, and my aunt said they had no plans to use a middle name either. Our last names would be the same too. Plus it felt like the sharing a name could be used by some people to push for me to be in the child's life. I asked my grandparents if they could convince him not to do it. They spoke to him and he was saying he just wanted his wife to be happy. They told him he could forget about the money if he does, since it would be fucking me over. I think my grandparents also hated the idea that he was sending a clear message that he never loved me by just using the name for the kid he wants to raise. My dad ended up backing down. His wife was pissed and she blamed me, even though he said it was my grandparents who intervened. She said she knows I must have said I didn't like it or something, and whatever I did, I was a selfish little C because I took away her chance to name her child what she wanted. She said Serenity was a name she chose when she was little and always wanted to use it. My grandparents came home while she was ranting at me and made her leave. My dad and his wife are no longer welcome at all. I can't get what she said out of my head. So I feel like I need to ask, am I the asshole? Not the asshole. You should be extremely glad your real parents had the foresight to see your bio dad as a total piece of a crap. What a selfish asshole. Please don't take whatever his garbage second wife says to heart. It had nothing to do with you, but it always had everything to do with him. I hope you're doing okay. Children shouldn't have to suffer at the hands of their sperm and or their egg donors. Edit. Damn, seems like everyone hard agrees. Not the asshole. You have every right to feel bad about your half-sibling having the identical name to you. Why are your grandparents still giving him money? Would be better in a college fund for you. Not the asshole. Thank God your grandparents stepped up to raise you. Your sperm donor sounds like a total peach of a guy. The fact that he is willing to be bribed to change the name of his future child means that he hasn't changed. Wonder how long he will stick around after the new baby is born. Because I took away her chance to name her child what she wanted. She said Serenity was a name she chose when she was little and always wanted to use it. Then she shouldn't have had a child with a man who already had a kid with that name. Not the asshole. That's really awful. Cut ties with them altogether. They sound like awful human beings. Good on your grandparents though. Not the asshole. At 16 you're already more mature than your father is now, and well beyond your father's wife. They are absolutely wrong for trying to steal your name. Don't give it a second thought. She's just being abusive because she didn't get her way. pay her no mind. It's weird for your dad, his partner, to want to give their child the exact same name as his existing child. It's like he's trying to have a do-over. Info: do you have a super common name combination, like Laura, Sarah, Claire, Smith, Jones, etc.? I'm not siding with your dad. Of all the names he could use, it's odd that he picked yours twice. I'm just ruling commonness out of the equation. Most definitely not the asshole your father and his wife are. I'm so glad to hear your grandparents are backing you and stepped in to raise you. Please don't listen or take anything that awful person said about you to heart. I'd be upset if I had a half-sister given my name. Not the asshole. Your sperm donor's new wife must be profoundly stupid if she thinks giving her offspring the exact same name as someone else is a good idea. Of course, she did willingly marry and spawn with a man who she knows will drop his spawn faster than a shark. Oh my dear, you're so much not the asshole. It sounds like you have committed, loving grandparents who are willing to do just about anything to protect you from their less than worthy son. And now it sounds like the son has married exactly the woman he deserves. Ignore her ranting. Just think of her as an angry little woman with poor judgment in men and garbage pouring out of her mouth, and stay as far away as you can. She has nothing of value to say to you. Your grandparents are the ones who got it right. Not the asshole. It sounds like they are on a lifelong quest to make you feel awful. Not the asshole. Your grandparents certainly did the right thing keeping him away from you when he refused to step up. This is a man who sold custody of his daughter. This is not strange. It's awful. Never bothered with her. Wanted to give his second child the exact same name as his first. He chose a woman just the same as him. Knowing her husband's oldest child has a name, she wants to use the same one. She then berates a child for her own poor behavior. Do not give these people another thought. Your grandparents know the character of their son and the measure of him. You are not the asshole. Not the asshole. If they choose to move forward, you can consider changing your name. Giving yourself a middle name, possibly taking on your mother's last name. Completely up to you, but you can take control of the situation. Not the asshole and your dad sucks. It's not your fault that your name is already Serenity. Your mother and father chose it for you when you were a baby. She has no one to blame but him. Furthermore, if you two have the same full name, and same dad, were born and grew up in the same area, it could cause bureaucratic issues for your and your half-sister's entire life, especially if neither of you have a middle name. Not the asshole. Wow. Why would his wife even want to do this if she knows his first child already has that name? So weird and mean. People don't change without a lot of effort. I wouldn't be surprised if this also goes sideways eventually. Completely not the asshole and you don't owe him anything. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. The sperm donator your mom had seems like rubbish you don't need to hold on to. I wouldn't bother worrying about them anymore. Not the asshole. But your sperm donor and his new wife are massive ones. Props to your amazingly badass grandparents. They are going to help you become a far superior person than your useless donor. Your sperm donor sounds like a family branch that needs to be cut off. Much love to you and I'm glad your grandparents became your real parents. And obviously, your aunts and uncle think it's weird to call his second daughter the same name. If they do, forever call her Sarah whenever in their presence. Or Serenity too. Also think of all the legal problems. You buy a house but it's in my name FFs. Not the asshole in the slightest, love. Am I the asshole? For being rude to my sil while she was breastfeeding in front of me? My brother and his girlfriend had their first baby about a year ago. They live 2 states over and finally brought the baby to my parents' house last weekend where they will be staying with us for about 2 weeks. I used to get along well with my brother but ever since his GF came into the picture, we don't see eye to eye. She's stuck up and entitled and my brother always takes her side. It irritates me, but since they now live like 300 miles away, I don't think about them much. Yesterday, I was watching a TV show in the family room when my Sil came and sat on the couch near me. She started talking to me and she was surprisingly nice. She was asking me about my college plans and how school was. This was the first time in a long time we had a civil conversation. However, the baby started crying, so she brought him to where we were sitting and said it was his meal time. She still breastfeeds him, so I told her I would leave to give her privacy. She said it was okay, so I stayed. When she loosened her bra and took out her boob to feed her kid, I felt uncomfortable. She was still talking to me, but instead of looking at her, I was looking away from her and speaking. She eventually caught on and told me it's rude to not look at someone when they're talking to you. I told her I was just trying to give her some privacy. I don't know if it's hormones or something, but then she got mad and started antagonizing me. She said she's a grown woman and if she wanted privacy she would have gone to another room or told me to leave. She also called me a jerk. I said she needs to calm her tits and has no right to boss me around in my own home. She called me an asshole, went to complain to my brother. My brother called me a bunch of names and said he's going to teach me a lesson. My mom also said I was out of line for the way I acted and what I said afterwards. I was only defending myself from her rude remarks. Am I the asshole? I am 100 for women breastfeeding as and when they need to. Wherever. However, you offered to remove yourself from the room because you felt uncomfortable. You didn't ask her to stop or move away. You respected her decision to feed, she didn't respect your decision not to watch. She was out of line. You are not the asshole. Not the asshole as a woman who is attracted to women. If there is an exposed breast, I avert my eyes until it's covered. And that doesn't have anything to do with being uncomfortable around the act of breastfeeding itself or even partial nudity. It has to do with making sure the other person knows I'm safe for them to be around, not trying to even accidentally ogle them. I'm actually pretty damn comfortable being around female nudity. I'm able to manage my eyes thoughts just fine on my end, but that's not something I'm going to assume other people understand. I'm sorry your Sil was so quick to take offense, make judgments about you. Not the asshole. It would have been weird if you were staring at her. I mean, she doesn't need to cover up, it is all very natural, but she also doesn't need to get upset when someone doesn't want to watch her. She was looking for a fight and found one. If you had looked too much she would have called you a creep. You didn't, so she called you rude. You were in a no-win situation. Just avoid Sil, she will be gone soon and you won't have to worry about it. Wow, normally I don't disagree with the majority, but she's feeding her child, get over it. Look at her face. She doesn't need privacy, you're allowed to be uncomfortable, but give it a second and it will pass. You made a big thing and you deliberately used the term calm your tits. Not the asshole. I am a big supporter of breastfeeding being normalized. There is nothing sexual about a baby eating their meal. Breastfeeding is like bra straps. It is a you problem if it makes you uncomfortable, so look somewhere else. Which is exactly what Opie did. He wasn't rude or a jerk, he just looked away. This is a perfectly acceptable compromise so everyone is comfortable. I am frankly side-eyeing her as she seems to be stirring up trouble and picking fights for no reason. Not the asshole. She can breastfeed if she wants, but what she can't make you do is watch her. Like, what the hell is up with your family? Why does she want a 17-year-old boy to watch her breastfeed? Not the asshole. It's weird she wanted you to look at her. I need a bit more info, although I think the answer is just that you're 17, haven't learned appropriate responses in social situations. Why didn't you just get up, leave? Yes, it would have been rude to walk out in the middle of her speaking, but you could have just simply said, I don't feel comfortable being here while you're breastfeeding, please excuse me. Honest, polite, straight to the point. What's the problem? My verdict is ESH. There's a lot of missing info in this post, but it seems like you were both pretty shitty. You couldn't win and she knew it. Show your family this post. Going the opposite way in my comment, but you're the asshole. She's breastfeeding, not making a striptease. I can't with this puritanism and sexualization of a woman nourishing her kid, tbh. Not the asshole. Also, why is a 26-year-old man with a baby threatening a 17-year-old who is also his brother? I feel like that part has been completely glossed over. I feel like if everyone thought you did something wrong, you left something out of that story. Note this really felt like a test with no right answers. She did need to calm her tits lol. Not the asshole, she seemed like she was spoiling for a fight. You were in a no-win situation there. Not the asshole even if she is comfortable with her boob out breastfeeding, it's rude to assume that everyone in the room wants to be present for that. Not the asshole your sill is making you feel uncomfortable in your own home. Just leave the room next time, no matter what she says. She's playing head games and it's not going to end well. Yes Serta. I know you're 17, but this is absurd. You don't need to defend yourself from a breastfeeding mother who is trying to have a polite friendly conversation with you. Ignore the not the asshole circle jerk. Try to be nicer to people. You're about to turn 18, so your parents can kick you out if they want. Not the asshole. You should have excused yourself and left the exposed boob to do its job. A lot of breastfeeding women want to expose the world to their perfect motherhood by pretending it is so natural that it should be in everyone's face. Your family is rude and a bunch of a-holes for getting angry with you. GF was purposely antagonizing you. Sure, the baby has to eat, but you don't have to watch or make eye contact with anyone if it's uncomfortable. You are 17 and you were uncomfortable. You are not the asshole. Definitely not the asshole. I am a breastfeeding woman. I may feel comfortable enough to breastfeed next to someone, but that doesn't mean that person should feel comfortable as well. I don't think it is healthy to dictate how other people should feel like your sill does. In the future, if a nursing woman makes you uncomfortable, you leave. Offering to leave only makes sense if you are okay and you think she is uncomfortable. Nah. She's looking for a fight here. Who knows, if you had looked at her instead of away, she might have called you a creep. You did what was comfortable for you in a situation you weren't comfortable in, and it just seems like she was determined to start some shit over something. X200B. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. I'm a grown woman, and I wouldn't have looked at her either. I would have felt very uncomfortable actually, being in the same room as she breastfed and was exposed. You did the polite thing and didn't look. She was being a massive Not the asshole. Breastfeeding is natural, but once she knew you were uncomfortable and kept pushing just to be a B, then you had a right to stand up for yourself. It sounds like your brother is trying to push his weight around and is being an ass. Just tell him just because he chose her doesn't mean you have to put up with her. No reason to talk to your mom until they are gone, but it might not even matter based on her reply. Just leave the room when she's around or stay out of the house as much as possible while they visit. You're the asshole. Breastfeeding is a natural thing and it is how your nephew eats. Would you eat your meals in private? I don't think so. Breasts are made to feed babies. That is their primary function. Yes, they can provide sexual pleasure, but that is not what they were designed primarily to do. You need to be more mature and apologize, both to your sill and your brother. I will also add, that I breastfed, and most of the time, people couldn't even tell I was doing so. I was so adept at it, that it was second nature. The baby's head covers most of the breast anyway. You really have to look to see anything. Am I the asshole? For not wanting to spend my honeymoon with my parents. I'm a 31F who married the Lommel who is the same age. We're moving to a completely different city and my parents keep hinting that if we're planning to honeymoon in Europe or somewhere they also want to go, that we should tell them so that they can come. For context, I am the only child and my mom told me that her entire family went with her in her honeymoon to my dad and it's not a big deal. She said we're not sharing rooms anyway, but she doesn't get the fact that I've been following their rules and doing what they want to do and adjusting to them for 31 fucking years. Why can't I enjoy my honeymoon with my husband, who I've never traveled alone with, doing what we want with our schedule and our own plans without two people relying on us for train station directions and moving everywhere and giving unsolicited advice? If we want to lay in bed all day or wake up later, we can, instead of thinking oh no these two people are clueless or aren't doing anything, let's get moving cause they might be bored. I don't wanna have to think about other people and their preferences during the time we've already delayed it because of expenses. But my mother makes it all about her being hurt and telling me I'm selfish for leaving them. How do I tell her nicely that we need to have boundaries and to learn to be her own self? I know she's doing it from a place of love, but I hate these expectations of always traveling with them just cause they can't do it on their own. Just because I'm not doing things her way or living my life how she would live hers doesn't mean I'm wrong. We're Asian BTW. Not the asshole. It's weird for your mom to even suggest for your parents to come on your honeymoon. It gets easier and easier to say no with practice. Not the asshole. This isn't a relationship advice subreddit, so I'm not even going to dip a toe into telling you how to break the news to your family that what you want is completely normal. But, it is, and it's a perspective that absolutely does not make you an asshole. Independence and boundaries are both very important in life, and your parents need to figure that out sooner or later. You're 31 and married. This should be the start of your life together, not an excuse for your parents to tag along to someplace they've always wanted to go. Not the asshole. Parents are acting like children and making it about themselves. It's your honeymoon, end of story. You can all go on a vacation together another time. Not the asshole to say no. Put your foot down. If you can't say no to your parents on your honeymoon, then when the fuck can you? I don't understand why we can't spend every Christmas together until you die. You let us go on your honeymoon. Etc., etc. Book a honeymoon for just the two of you, tell the parents after you've done it, but don't tell them where you're going. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Tell them no. The whole point of a honeymoon is to be alone with your so. Tell them once you are back from honeymoon, next vacation you can travel together. Not the asshole. So what if your mom did it with her parents? That was her honeymoon, not yours. Not the asshole. Be clear and firm. No, me and husband want to honeymoon by ourselves, you can't come with us this time. Not the asshole. Tell them you don't plan to leave the room the entire time and that they would be totally on their own. Not the asshole. And I can't speak to the cultural aspect of your situation at all, but I'd say just simply tell her that only you and your husband will be honeymooning together because that's what married couples do, and that as an independent, married adult now that it's time for you to live your life how you want. Do not let her emotionally manipulate you, which I'm sure she's going to try. Setting boundaries can be hard, but at the end of the day it's what you need to do for a healthy relationship with both your parents and your husband. Congratulations and good luck. You don't tell her nicely because she will whine and whine and whine. You say no, I want to be with my husband as we have created a new family that we need to nurture with love and companionship to grow. I know she's doing it from a place of love. No. Fact that I've been following their rules and doing what they want to do and adjusting to them for 31 fucking years. It's not a place of love. That's a word she's hiding behind to control you. Love needs respect, compassion, and kindness, or it's useless. Start your marriage off as you intend it to be, which I hope is that you and hubby are now the immediate family. Mom and dad do not get to join you on your honeymoon. Sorry mom that you were too weak to stand up to your family if that story is even true. You need to set down some hard boundaries so they know where they stand after your marriage. Not the asshole. Your family has no business being on your honeymoon. If they want to go someplace, they should do it without you. I had to spend some time thinking what LOML is. Like male to female thing. L2, Omg. You are a tiny for that lol. The rest not the asshole. Not the asshole. I bet they expect you to pay for them as well. Say no and mean it. 2 flight tickets and 1 hotel room. Not the asshole. It is crazy she would ask and be upset you said no. It's okay to say no op. You can do this. Not the asshole. Your honeymoon is for you and your husband. Not the asshole. This is not a place of love. This is controlling and boundary breaking and you need to nip it in the bud right now. You're an adult, married woman and you need to lead your own life and it can start with your honeymoon. Do not let them take that away from you. Go enjoy and start putting up the boundary walls. Nata, book your honeymoon and inform them when you get back. Just in case she is one of those individuals who has issues with boundaries. This is not a family vacation. It's a private trip between newlyweds to get closer and maybe even start a family. You are too old for your mother to have this much control over your decisions. If she is hurt, that is her problem. Not the asshole. X200B. If you actually bring your parents to the honeymoon, expect to be divorced soon. Not the asshole. There's no sugarcoating this conversation. Be direct, and spell it out exactly as you've done in the post. Those are all very good reasons for wanting to travel alone with your husband. Mom should be able to understand the reasoning, even if she's not willing to accept it, but you're not responsible for her feelings. Good luck, and congratulations. Nata. Time to start saying no before they take over your honeymoon, your marriage, your home, your children. Not the asshole. Don't be nice about it. Tell her explicitly that you expect to be fucking your husband the entire trip and that it's really weird that she expects to be part of that. Definitely not the asshole. I would find the temptation to respond something like sorry, Mom, but we plan to spend most of the time f***ing and we're afraid you'd be bored. Almost overwhelming. Not the asshole. Don't tell them where you're going specifically. And when your mom says it's not a big deal again, you respond immediately with not to you, but it is to me. I'm spending my honeymoon with my honey and be prepared to repeat it. Not the asshole. She isn't coming from a place of love, she's coming from a place of control. Just book the honeymoon and don't tell anybody. You are a grown-up, you don't have to discuss anything with your parents. Not the asshole. For our 10th anniversary we finally got to go on a wonderful vacation, only to find out that coincidentally, Mill and Sil were also on vacation nearby and we ended up spending half our anniversary with them doing activities they wanted to do and we had no interest in. I lost out on seeing several places I dreamed of because of them. No bitterness here, nope. Do you want grandchildren? Yes? Then you're not coming on our honeymoon. Not the asshole. Don't tell them where you are going for your honeymoon. We are Asian few, the stereotype is real for all of Asia. Say no. And keep saying no. Eventually they will be able to comprehend it. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Parents on your honeymoon? Keep your travel plans completely private. Don't tell anyone where you are going in case it gets back to them. Then go and enjoy your honeymoon. Nata. Am I the asshole? For yelling at a family in public to put their dog on a leash? Throw away for privacy. This happened a few hours ago. I was walking in a public park, I won't say where, and there was a couple with a child and a dog walking in the opposite direction. The dog had a collar but no leash, and suddenly it ran up to me and jumped onto me with full force, knocking me over onto my back. The parents called it off. I was very, very pissed to say the least, and as soon as I got up I yelled at the top of my lungs, "Put your fucking dog on a fucking leash!" The kid started crying and the parents looked pretty shocked and didn't say anything. The park wasn't very crowded but there were a few other people nearby who looked at us. I left the scene immediately as I did not want to stick around after that. I think one of the people watching said, "Dude, chill out" or something, but I wasn't interested in conversing with anyone at that point. Thinking back, I feel a tiny bit bad, but they were also extremely irresponsible for not having their dog on a leash out in public. Just because they trust it doesn't mean other strangers will, and look what happened. And if they aren't responsible enough to keep their dog on a leash, why should they be responsible for keeping it up to date on its shots? I could have gotten rabies because of those fucking dumbasses. So did I overreact, or was my response warranted? Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. That type of behavior, uncontrolled and reckless, is how the family might eventually find themselves in a situation of a court ordering the dog be put down. Nobody wants that. Not the asshole. Depending on where you are, leash laws dictate any animal needs to be leashed in public. The fact it jumped on you so hard as to knock you over says it was both coming at you with some good speed, and that it is a larger dog. If they didn't want to get yelled at, they shouldn't be letting their dog jump on and knock people over. Not the asshole. What if you had been older and knocking you to the ground broke a bone? They could have been sued. Good for you. Not the asshole. They need to hear that. What if the dog had knocked down an infirm person instead of you and they got injured? Not the asshole. Dogs should be on leashes in public parks. If you were elderly or a small child, you could easily have been hurt. When these accidents happen, it's the dog who gets punished the most. People should just follow the rules. Not the asshole. The dog knocked you over. The owners are being selfish and negligent. How will they feel if their dog is hit by a car, since it is obviously not under their control, or is attacked by another dog? I saw this just last week. Their kid will definitely be crying then, and probably be traumatized too. They definitely should have said sorry to you and asked if you were okay. Not the asshole at all. What if he'd hurt you by knocking you down? Bitten you? Are they going to call you the AH when they're on the hook for your bills and expenses? They're also not doing the dog any favors. BC, if he knocks down someone and they're injured, well, now the dog is probably going to be killed when it's their fault for not trolling him. Nata, there are leash laws just for events like this. I would have filed a police report. Their dog attacked you. Next time it could be a child or an elderly person who could get seriously hurt. My uncle got a concussion from being knocked down by an unleashed dog in a park. Owner had to pay his medical bills and got a huge fine. For the safety of everyone, always report this type of situation to authorities. Not the asshole. I love dogs, but not everyone does, and not all dogs are cute and cuddly. Some are big and goofy with poor manners, always the owner's fault. They should be grateful you file a report. That's how my friend's mother died. Dog off leash knocked her backwards, skull injury, and died. It's not a joke. Nata. Maybe a wake-up call for these people. Some women let her dog run up towards me and my leashed dog, smiling and saying, "Don't worry, he's friendly." I stared her down and calmly told her mine wasn't. She called her dog back so fast and leashed him up, and got off the trail. You just never know. Why I always keep my knife visible and handy when I hike. Honestly, there is a lot of wildlife, brush to be wary of, but if I ever had to use it, it probably would be against some dog who was off leash. Not the asshole, just the fact that it ran at you, let alone jumping on you, shows it needs to be on a leash. That would be severely traumatizing for anyone who already has PTSD from dogs. People are often very entitled when it comes to their animals and coddle them endlessly. That's intolerable when it affects other people. Not the asshole. Rabies is a bit of an over-exaggeration, but you could most definitely have been injured in the fall. I'm super allergic and have learned to avoid places where leash laws aren't well enforced. The entitled assholes think their dogs won't hurt anyone. Yes, they can. You could have been hurt. It could be an EpiPen and ER trip for me. Someone else could be injured. A service dog could be distracted or traumatized. You are not the asshole. Nope, definitely not the asshole, and definitely didn't overreact. I would have been livid, and I have 2 dogs myself. I would never walk them in public without leashes, especially if the dogs is clearly not properly trained. What would have happened if you were actually injured? They were completely irresponsible and inconsiderate. Not the asshole theory. Unleashed obviously untrained dog could have seriously injured you. Not the asshole. I don't know if you were on a sidewalk or in the grass, but what if you had hit your head on the sidewalk or on a rock? That could have been very dangerous. What if you had brittle bones or some other sort of invisible disability that could have been exacerbated by being shoved down like that? At the very least, you're probably gonna bruise and be a little sore. You shouldn't have to worry about that happening while just walking quietly at a park. If they're going to let their dog off leash, it needs to be at a specific off-leash park, and the dog needs to be trained to behave properly and have good recall. Not the asshole. I'd be pretty upset too if some random dog jumped on me and knocked me to the ground. Did the family even apologize? They should give leash their dog, especially since you said the park was so crowded. I think animals should be on leashes, period. Also, how someone could see an unknown dog jump and push you down and still say chill out. Sorry to the kid for having stupid parents, but not the asshole. Not the asshole. They needed to hear it. Their dog full-on knocked you over. You could have gotten really hurt if you fell just the wrong way or hit your head. It sucks the kid got upset, but the parents, the dog's adult owners, need to be more responsible and keep their dog on a leash when in public. Not all those people deserve whatever bad things happen to them and their dog. Not the asshole. My 67-year-old mother just had 3 ribs broken. BC. An unleashed dog ran up to happily greet her dog who was properly leashed. The dogs knocked her over and she hit the pavement with full force. Would I be the asshole if I didn't want to use my wife's suggestion for our baby name, given its importance to her? My wife and I can't decide on the name for our baby. Since the start of pregnancy she had a name in mind, and it means a lot to her in terms of the name meaning and its associations. We've not really discussed the baby name seriously during pregnancy due to focus on other life priorities during that time, and I haven't put forward any name suggestions until after the baby was born. So we've narrowed it down to 2 names, Upape meaning river in our language and Veja Veyer, pronounced similarly to Freya. Up is the name that my wife wants and I'm not strictly against it, but I'm not really excited about it. Veja meaning wind is the one that I proposed and my wife likes it but not as much as her option, and it doesn't have the association with water which is important to her. We live in the UK and we're also a bit concerned about crude associations, name calling if we used name Veja Vahaj, etc., but not sure how substantiated this is. Any opinions from native speakers appreciated. I'd feel bad if my wife couldn't use her name, especially since it means that much for her, but at the same time that name doesn't excite me at all, although with time I would probably get used to it. I really like my suggestion. Andy wife quite likes it too, but not sure if she won't eventually regret not picking her option due to its meaning to her. I should add that we only want to use one name, no middle names or double barreling. Would I be the arsehole if we named our child using my suggestion, given the importance of my wife's option to her and the time she had that name in her head? From the UK, while we all know people should take time to learn and pronounce names, and this is a common microaggression, both names will be roundly mispronounced and misunderstood here. Vaya, Veja or Vaya would be how many Brits would read that one, and Uppy or Oop would be the attempt at the other. If you plan to bring these children up in the UK, it may be worth considering that when choosing from the wealth of glorious names your culture offers. Source: child of an immigrant who anglicized his name to better fit in, except everyone here still couldn't say it right. Sigh. Info: so if you get your choice now, does she choose for the hypothetical second child? Also pretty sure Up is going to become some variant of Oops in school, but kids make fun of almost all unusual names. Veja is also the name of a trainer brand currently popular in the UK. Just something else to think about. As a UK-born person, if you want to raise your kids in the UK, please consider how it sounds. First name, last name, initials. I got married and went from JCWMA. No worries to JCB, and even as an adult I got comments. Please, think about it. With ethnic names you really have to take into account the country you reside in and how that name can be warped and used to torment a child. Frankly, both names are minefields when it comes to bullying and teasing. Up is Oops, Oompa Loompa, Hopper Greek and so on, Veja, JJ, Vieja old lady in Spanish, and so on. If you want an ethnic name, try for one that can't be twisted to torment your child, because I can guarantee that if she suffers because of her name she won't care what it means in your native language or whatever sentimental meaning you guys have for it. Edit: mistranslated a word, embarrassed smiley face. I would highly suggest you don't go with Veja. I'm not a crude person, and my mind immediately went to JJ, which I can guarantee is exactly what every middle school bully is going to call her. I'm sure in another language, it's beautiful, but in an English-speaking country, you're putting a target on her back. Jays. Hi. The I didn't say anything for 9 months argument is a good one against your case. I think your best family-focused option is to go with Up. You will most likely find that you love it in a year or two, and if it turns out to be a burden, then both parents might find themselves revisiting the no middle name stance. Best of luck with your baby girl. I'm not gonna say your TA, but the words you are using to describe things. Your wife wants the name Up, it's important to her, it means that much to her. Veja is the one you proposed. No special meaning or anything further. Up doesn't excite you. You don't seem to hate it. Or even dislike it. You're just not excited about it. Somewhere, between two sets of feelings, is compromise. Compromise is hardly 50-50 ever. It's just not 100-0. How far off are you from 50-50 right now on that name? Go to a coffee shop and order something with the names to test out how others pronounce them. Veja is a pretty popular sneaker brand at the moment. I believe it's a French company. Not sure if that is where the words comes from. I would not have associated it with female organs. I personally prefer Veja of the two names. Partly because it is easier to pronounce. I'm not sure how Up should be pronounced even with your indication, and imagine she may have to explain it to people all the time. My partner has this problem and it drives him bonkers. Is there another water-related name you could try? Honestly, does it really matter if the name doesn't excite you? It's a name. It probably shouldn't be exciting. If it means this much to your wife, I'm not really sure why you would be against it since you don't seem to outright hate it. As I can see, names are Lithuanian. Since you live in the UK you changed the letter E to E, but it kinda changes the meaning of the name Vaja. If you're gonna use the name with spelling Vaja not Vaja then it will literally mean grass, not wind. No offense, but both names are not really good. To be honest, I wouldn't go with either. There is honoring your cultural background, then there is setting your child up for endless bullying harassment. Up will likely end with p-poop derivatives Veja with the Vaha J etc. Up as an English speaker will be read out loud by a teacher at some point in a class as sounding UP, and then the kid will have problems. As the kid becomes an adult, she will have to explain to every person who reads her name that it is pronounced another way. I fear if you are in an English-speaking country, Up's name would be pronounced by one and all as UP. Not exactly what a small child needs to be confronted with at school. Vaja may not be so easily used as a taunt. If you want to name your child after a river, why not use river itself? Nah, if you both agree with the choice. From UK here. Kids will find anything to make fun of someone. As someone who was bullied relentlessly because I developed breasts at an early age to the point where I tried to take my own life. For the sake of your child, please don't name her Vaja. It's a beautiful name, but kids are cruel. 2 under 100. We haven't discussed the name means you didn't discuss it because she had a name in mind and it has importance to her, while you evaded the discussion. So your name idea is solely based on not being so excited about it. Yeah, suck it up. You can lead her on for months and then insist on your choice. Use middle names. It helps makes your kid unique in government databases and gives them options for alternative names, nicknames if they don't like the one you chose. Nah, but Up has special meaning for her whereas Vaja is just some random name you like. I'd go with Up. Kids will pick on pretty much any name so I wouldn't worry a lot about that, but yeah, Vaja will be some variation of vagina. If you as an adult can come up with one insult based of a child's name, it's safe to assume each kid can come up with 1,000 insults too if you insist on that name regardless of its pronunciation since you specified how it's pronounced. Not denigrating your culture, but UP and Vaja are going to haunt your daughter for life. I'd not even go with them as a middle name, which you don't want anyway. Please try to find other names. So sorry, I know this is not what you want. Hi, I'm a fellow Lithuanian living in the UK. I have a non-standard name even by Lithuanian standards, and every time I need to share my name is torture to the point I go by a nickname that has F all to do with my real name. Why don't you name her after one of Lithuanian rivers instead? Vilja, Venta, there are plenty of river names you could use that both have the V sound you like in Vaja but keep the river theme your wife likes. And many of them are way harder for potential bullies to twist than Vaja or Up. Vaja, a shoe brand. Do you want to name your child after a popular streetwear shoe? Not the asshole. But I'm from the UK, honestly I wouldn't choose either name. You both don't like either name. So go back, start again, choose something you both like. There are many names, not just these two. Am I the asshole? For cutting support for my partner's family out of our budget if she becomes a stay-at-home mother? My partner, we are not married or going to get married, and I have been together for 4 years and have a son who is 5 months old. Her employer has a very generous maternity leave of 6 months, so she still has 1 more month of full pay remaining before she has to go back. We are currently dual income and the agreement before having a kid was that we would remain a dual income household and she would go back to work after her leave, and we would put our son in a daycare near our home. My friends' kids go there and it seems to be excellent. Despite the daycare seemingly being a great fit, my partner is having cold feet about going back to work. She wants to put in her 2 weeks notice upon return and become a stay-at-home mother. I really never wanted this situation because the thought of being a sole earner has always been very stressful to me, but she really is wanting this. Now my partner's family is mostly back in South America and she has been sending them money on a monthly basis for as long as I've known her. Anywhere from $500 to $2K a month. While figuring out if we can make things work on just my income, we are putting together a budget. I have stated that I will agree to her staying home, but I won't be sending her family income from my paycheck every month or at all. I work overtime most weeks and I refuse to work overtime just to send the money out of the country. If I'm not going to benefit from the extra work, I'd rather just have more time to relax and be with my son. My partner says this is unfair as her family is very important to her and she's saying I'm being as about it as I should have known that supporting her family would always be part of her life, and by having a kid with her I basically signed up for that. Am I the asshole? For putting my foot down and refusing to ever send them money if she's not contributing to the household income? X200B. Since people keep bringing the topic up, I am adding that we are not in a state that recognizes common law marriage or palimony, and we are not going to get legally married. Not the asshole. Your wife has to make a choice. Either be a stay-at-home mother and her family does without support, or go back to work and continuing to support her family. She is flipping the script, she has to make the sacrifice and decide. Not the asshole. $2,000 a month is a ton of money. You are being fair. If she wants to support an entirely separate family and take from her own family you and your son, then she needs to earn that income. But I also think you should talk more about how you don't want to be the sole income earner. That stress is valid and she can't just unilaterally decide that you will be. I was the breadwinner for 8 months or so while my husband was laid off and job searching, and I was so anxious. I hated it. Not the asshole to call her out on this bullshit. That supporting her family would always be part of her life, and by having a kid with her I basically signed up for that. Then she better get her ass back to work so she can support her family back home. Not the asshole. You two had an agreement. She wants to change the terms of that agreement, which is totally fine, should be an open discussion. However, the reality of the situation is that you can't sacrifice all of your time with your family in order to support her family. You're not an ATM. You're not there just to provide money. If she wants to send money to her family, that has to fit in a budget. A budget that doesn't require you to work yourself to death. Not the asshole. Supporting her family would always be part of her life. Interesting logic, pressuring you into doing more overtime and spending less time with your infant child somehow counts as her virtuously supporting her family. I think you've found someone who can justify in their own mind anything they want for themselves as obviously the right thing to do. Not the asshole. If her family is so important, then she can continue working to support them. You knew they were part of the deal while she was working. No way I would work my butt off to support her family. Not the asshole. Your partner is being unrealistic. It's because you're a dual-income household that she can afford to send money to her family. Not the asshole. Math is math. Less money in, less money out. If you are in the US, she would be making a horrible financial decision for herself if she became a stay-at-home mother while not married. She will have zero financial protection for herself if you end the relationship, and meanwhile will not be making any contributions to Social Security, or any retirement savings. There are many, many reasons beyond your objections why an unmarried partner should never, ever become a sir. Not the asshole. Your agreement together would be that you remain a dual-income household. If she wants to continue supporting her family, she needs to be working for it. Edit. The very cynical side of me wants to say something like the fact that she's had a child with you is not her family back home's ticket. If your wife knew that this would always be an expenditure for her, why does she feel it is okay to quit her job? There are a million mothers out there that wish they could be stay-at-home mother, but it isn't feasible financially. She has a choice to make. Not the asshole. Wife is trying to have her cake and eat it too. This is not unfair. If she quits, the couple's income is reduced, so less cash to burn by sending it south. She needs to understand that if she wants to continue sending dollar, she needs to continue working. And, she needs to understand that it's not her responsibility to support them. Not the asshole. You didn't sign up for that. You signed up for a two-income household. If she wants to renegotiate to a single income, then everything is on the table. No way should you have to give up time with your son to send money to the rest of her family. No different than that she doesn't want to give up time with him for them. Not the asshole. I used to do that for my family when I worked. Once I stopped, I let them know I could no longer give them monthly help and I don't expect my husband to do so. It wouldn't be fair. If her family overseas was important to her, she'd work to support them like you're doing for your family. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. It sounds like the old bait and switch. She wants to change the agreement but does not like the consequences if it is changed. Not the asshole. Supporting her family may have always been an important part of her life, but you did sign up to it being important in your life. It's quite unfair for her to expect you to support your family as in her and your son and support hers as well. She's already going back on the agreement to keep working, so she has no right to expect you to work all those hours away from your family to give it to hers. Not the asshole. If she wants to financially support her family, great, but that's on her. If she's not working, that line item should be cut from the budget. Info: how much does your GF make at work and how much is daycare? Not the asshole. X200B. N. My partner says this is unfair as her family is very important to her. She can show just how important with her decision to go back to work. X200B. And by having a kid with her I basically signed up for that. No. You did not. You signed up to raise a kid with her. In this economy? Nah. This is a tricky situation. It always is when money is involved. It seems like she is working to send money to her family, so it makes sense that if she quits working, then her income to send to them would be cut off. It's not fair for her to want to cut your income in half, keep her lifestyle the same except stay at home, pay for baby expenses and send money to her family. I know this is common practice in the US, sending money to other countries, but this is ridiculous. Not the asshole. No, not the asshole. Not the asshole. I get that she wants to support her family, but as the sole breadwinner, your job is to support your family, meaning her and your children. You are not responsible for anyone else. Not the asshole. I get that she wants to stay with her child. 6 months is not much maternity leave, in most parts of the world, but that's a huge income hit and her family has always been sent money she earned. If she wants to keep sending money, she'll have to return to work. Info: how long does she want to stay home? 6 months maternity leave isn't really all that generous. In many countries the minimum is 12 months, and in some it's more. If it's just another 6 months, perhaps there's a compromise that can be made as long as it's doable financially. For example, she gets 6 additional months, but limits her monthly amount to family to be $500 rather than $2,000. Am I the asshole for not letting my neighbor borrow my car? I, 30F, recently moved to a new state over the spring, and luckily have become fairly well acquainted with some of my new neighbors. One being Jess, 36F. For some context, Jess and her husband share a car. Jess is a stay-at-home mother, and normally has their car during the day while her husband is at work. She runs errands, does pick-up drop-off for her 4-year-old that goes to pre-K. Well, recently Jess' husband was promoted at his job, and this requires him to drive to several different stores, no company vehicle. So he is using the car now. I was not aware, but apparently today was his first day in his new role, and she was without a car to get her son from school. I as well am a stay-at-home mother, but my daughter was homesick from school today with a fairly high fever. Well, Jess reached out this afternoon asking if I could give her a ride to pick up her son from school. I said I wouldn't be due to my own child being sick, and I didn't want to bring her out of the house if I didn't have to. Plus, I'm not trying to get others sick. She understood, and then followed up with asking if she could take my car since it's just sitting today. I said no. There's a few thought behind this, but ultimately it comes down to two main points. A. My car is a manual transmission. She has told me in the past that she has only driven a manual once, and it was when she was a teen. I'm not trying to have my car be her guinea pig to try and relearn a manual transmission, especially without me in the car with her. B. I'm not comfortable letting others borrow my car. It's a massive liability. She was taken back when I said no to her request. She was able to arrange a ride to go pick up her son from school. But she'll be in the same situation on Monday when her son has school again. While I feel bad for her situation of only have one car and the needs for the car changing, I don't feel like I should be responsible for supplying a second vehicle for her to use. I'm not totally opposed to helping pick up her son from school, since that seems to be when she needs the most help, but I'm not comfortable loaning my car out either. So, am I the asshole? Not the asshole at all. You need your car even if you aren't using it. What if your daughter's fever spiked suddenly and you needed to get her to the doctor? Honestly, it's good you said no because it sounds to me like she was testing the waters for future car favors from you. She managed to solve her own problem just fine without imposing on you. Maybe her husband can get her a nice, used car with his fancy promotion. Not the asshole. I don't even let my closest friends drive my car, let alone a neighbor. It's your vehicle and your discretion to choose who drives it other than yourself. Not the asshole. I tell her I'm not comfortable loaning my car because of insurance reasons, and even if that wasn't the case, you told me you can't drive a stick. Not the asshole. Your A and B reasons are exactly why lending her the car would be a bad idea. They should have planned ahead and figured something out, like getting a second car now that he has a promotion. Not A. Hard pass. It's up to them to figure this out. It's not your job to fix their problem. Not the asshole. That is a huge liability. I wouldn't let a random person borrow my car either, as it seems like it would be a nightmare if they were to get into an accident or something. Not the asshole. She and her husband need a second car. Not the asshole. This is not your issue to deal with. Not the asshole. I'd let a few of my neighbors take my truck if they needed, but I've been good friends with them for 10-20 years at this point, and we're close enough that we get together often, so they are close friends and not just acquaintances, neighbors. For insurance reasons alone, I'd say no. They probably should have figured out this issue before accepting the change in their work-life situation. Not the asshole. You don't need any specific reason to deny her request. I wouldn't let someone borrow my car either. Not the asshole. I find it odd that some people think it's normal to lend cars to friends and neighbors. I've always learned that you don't lend your car to anyone. Your reason B is more than enough. Not the asshole. It was her responsibility to figure this out before hubby started the new routine. Not the asshole. It sounds like they have the weekend to buy a second-hand car for her to drive. Not the asshole. You don't need to replace your clutch. Not the asshole. Maybe her husband can use that big promotion to buy another car. Crazy, I know, but it just might work. Not the asshole. She asked. You said no. Case closed. Info. I feel bad for her situation of only have one car and the needs for the car changing. Why? Her situation has shit all to do with you. And I don't see anything here stopping her from just buying her own car. Not the asshole. She knew this was coming and it seems like she didn't make any plans beyond asking for your help. I would not let someone borrow my car for multiple reasons, but yours being a stick shift would definitely make me more hesitant if she hasn't driven one in 15 years. Not the asshole. Both of your reasons are beyond valid. Her husband got a big promotion. Time for a second car. Not the asshole. Absolutely insane of her to ask to use your car, honestly. Even more so to get upset about it. Not the asshole. I would let anyone use my car. Too much liability. Not the asshole. She and her husband should have worked out Jess's and child's transportation before he started his new job. Their lack of planning is not an emergency for you. This is something Jess and her husband need to work out, and relying on you is not an option as a solution. You need your car. Not the asshole. I don't like to let anyone drive my car. It's your car, you are not obligated to let your neighbor drive if. Plus, if you had let her, it would have opened the door to her asking you all the time. You don't need a reason. No is a complete sentence. They need a second car. Not the asshole. Story time. I had a neighbor who I thought was a good friend. We share drop-off and pick-up for our kids. She totaled her car. I had two at the time. I let her use one of my cats for 3 months before she bought a new one. She bought her own gas, that's it. Flash forward a couple of years. My car gets totaled. She had 2 cars. I asked her, yo, borrow it for 1-2 days. She said no. Being a friend doesn't mean you have one. As someone who works in the insurance field, my answer is simple: don't. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Point B is the only one you need to make and the only one that matters. Just the first sentence of it. She asked, you said no, that's the end of it. Any unhappiness is her issue, not yours. Not the asshole. Her husband accepting this promotion notified them both that she was suddenly going to be without a vehicle. That's their problem to deal with, not yours. Your reasons are spot on, and there are many more. Lol, I drive a manual, and nobody but my ex has or wants to borrow it. Not the asshole. I don't even let my husband drive my manual transmission car. He's totally an automatic guy. Not. In most countries, if you sit your driving test on an automatic, you get a restricted license and aren't allowed to drive a manual. There are skills involved and lack of them can cause wear and tear and risk of accidents. In the USA, most states only enforce this for 18-wheelers, and it leads to complacency among car drivers. When I sold the first car I had there, I told people if they showed up driving an automatic I would refuse a test drive. It was not the car to learn on for sure, nor were they paying driving school fees. It's taking a big risk with someone you don't know. You were right to say no, and it's a cheeky ask. Not the asshole. Your neighbor's request is out of line. I wouldn't lend out my car. Not the asshole. I don't know you anywhere near good enough to let you use my car, and no, you cannot grind up my transmission when you haven't driven a stick in about 20 years. No. Not now. Not tomorrow. Not next month. No. Not the asshole. It's your car. You have the right to say no. You also have the right to not explain yourself. You aren't responsible for anyone other than yourself and your family. Don't let anyone guilt you into doing something you don't feel comfortable doing. Am I the asshole? For not congratulating my sil on her pregnancy? My 30-watt sil 33 watts just announced her first pregnancy. Me and my husband, her brother, already have a 2-year-old and her twin sister already got a few kids, so she was the last of us childless. Here comes the twist: we lost our second born in July on their birth, in an absolute unpredictable way. We personally don't wait until a certain week to announce a pregnancy because life is unpredictable and you have no guarantees anyway. So we announced this pregnancy way before week 12, and her exact words were, "You're pretty brave to announce the pregnancy that early." The birth of said child was also the reason we weren't able to attend her wedding, which just happened on the same day, a 4-hour drive away. We didn't spread the news about our son's death on that day though. She announced her pregnancy at a little get-together that originally took place to celebrate her and her twin sister's birthday. Apparently she wasn't pregnant with one children but twins, but lost the child early into pregnancy. And she was openly happy about it. She started listing all the reasons she was glad that she didn't have to buy everything twice and didn't have to do twice the work act. I was sitting across the table and I didn't even know how to react. First of all, of course, her pregnancy announcement triggered some feelings of jealousy, and I would have wished for her to tell us beforehand and not in a room full of people. But I'm not mad about that or anything, although I find it a bit insensitive. On the other hand, her happiness about losing a child left me speechless. I mean, I guess I kinda get her train of thoughts, but I think some thoughts are inside thoughts, and I must admit I felt offended about being confronted with her reaction to child loss in that kinda way. Anyway, neither me nor my husband got up to hug her or congratulate her, and she later on texted my husband that she wasn't happy about the way we acted. Nah, it's all very difficult. I'm so sorry for your loss, and of course you're still grieving and comments hurt, and that's okay. You're allowed to feel that way and also a little jealous. Your Sil is also allowed to feel the way she does, and honestly sounds like she may be putting on a brave face and making joking comments as many of us do as a way of dealing with her own grief. Maybe instead of growing apart and being bitter, reach out and be each other's support, for you both have lost and are grieving. Edit typo. Your Sil is probably trying to rationalize her grief. I don't see any R's here. Nah. I get why her comments would have been jarring to you, but you have to remember that everyone deals with loss differently. I don't think anyone here is an asshole. I'm so sorry for your loss. Nah, but you are kind of in the wrong. She lost a baby too. And she's dealing with as best she can. She doesn't owe you anything, and she doesn't have to tell you separately. It's her news to share as she sees fit. You didn't have to hug her, but a simple yay or "I'm happy for you" would have been sufficient. I'm so sorry for your loss, pensive face. It's difficult to say what's happening, but some people do use gallows humor as a coping mechanism to hide their anguish. Nah, here. You had a valid, emotional response since you were still recovering from your loss. She is likely putting on a brave face and trying to be happy for the surviving twin. I would still write it all out and apologize, just saying that the lost twin triggered your grief, so you weren't at your best. Congratulate her for her future offspring coming, and try to move on. Not the asshole. She wouldn't have been an either if she hadn't called you and your husband to admonish the two of you for not reacting with joy. She is allowed to feel her feelings, but her trying to force you into faking happiness for her is a nah move. Let her be unhappy. She was processing her feelings her way. You were processing your feelings your way. Given the background, you and your husband can be given a pass for not responding with immediate joy. That moment is past now. You can move forward with more positive feelings toward the birth of this newest child to the family. Not the asshole. I was very pregnant when someone lost a baby and I knew to stay away from her because she was grieving. I asked her husband if I could send anything over to their house, but my baby belly was not something she needed to see when she was hurting. So sorry for your loss. Dealing with family is hard. Dealing with family that is dealing with trauma is even harder. You all are processing grief and expressing it in different ways. For you it might be jealousy and depression. For her, it might be putting on a happy face and trying to ignore it. You don't know what she's feeling behind closed doors. You all need to give each other some grace. I would just explain you and your husband are still dealing with grief and need some space, and to not take it personally. Then wish her the best and say you're happy for her. Anyone who calls you YTA is absolutely wrong. I am honestly confused on what my vote should be, because on the one hand, you both lost kids, so I feel like this could be your Sil's way of coping. On the other hand, if she felt like you weren't happy, she could have simply tried to sympathize with you, because she was being happy about losing a baby and it wouldn't be fair on you. Nah, because the situation is horrible for both of you. Nah. She's rationalizing her grief at losing an unborn child. It has nothing to do with you or your own loss. She can be unhappy about your lack of congratulations, but your DH can and should explain that the two of you are still grieving, and were a little taken aback by the way she was finding the positives in losing a child. You were shocked and overwhelmed but meant her no personal disrespect. Not the asshole, but congratulate her. Every child is worth celebrating. When I lost my child in the second trimester, between my tears, I mumbled, I didn't want a newborn in February either way. It helped me cope with losing my child. She is doing the same. I just want to say I'm sorry for your loss. I lost my second son 2 years ago on the 15th of November. My friend had a baby on his due date and I couldn't even look at that baby. I would hide if they were in the same place as me. We all react differently when losing a child. It's the worst thing in the world. This month is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month and we'll be thinking of your baby too. I'm sorry honey for your loss. Big hugs. It's nice to see everyone thinks it's her way of coping, but what if she really doesn't care and is actually very happy about it? This may not be a coping thing. Not the asshole. Honestly, she wouldn't have even been an asshole until she called to tell you she was mad about you guys not congratulating her. She knows that you lost a baby 3 months ago. It would have been a kindness to share the news in private ahead of time. And regardless of her feelings, it's fairly insensitive to make comments about being happy she lost one of the fetuses while in the room with someone who lost their baby so recently. To then call about your lack of congratulations puts her fairly into asshole territory. Not the asshole. Maybe she truly isn't happy about losing one of the babies, but this is just her way of coping right now. Nah, both yours and hers feelings are valid. Sounds like they're happy about not buying 2 of everything is a cope. Flushed face. She's probably really heartbroken, trying to convince herself that it's better this was. Either way, totally inappropriate and I'd be offended too. Baby loss is not a joking matter, it's with you forever, and it's heartbreaking. Maybe talk to her. Tell her how you felt and see how she is really feeling and that obviously you are happy for them but still felt horrible. Not the asshole. You're the asshole. You don't get to decide how she processes the loss of a pregnancy. If she wants to focus on the positives and the pregnancy that is still going and remind herself of the negatives that could have come with twins, that is how she is processing and she is allowed to do so. Judging her based on your personal experience is not fair, and it's clear she wanted to be happy about the experience she is having so far instead of dwelling on the grief. You could have taken a more supportive and understanding route. Wow. How tone deaf can you get? Still needed to read the room. Having lost a child to full-term stillbirth and one to miscarriage, you are not the ass. She is 100 the ass. And she can kick bricks. Very soft, you're the asshole. Not the asshole. I'm speechless. Who says things like that? I pray it's a trauma response, but I know women who would be just as gross. Please accept my deepest condolences. My identical twin's son passed at 15 months. The crap people said to her after was appalling. I'm so sorry for your loss and to have to deal with that. Not the asshole. Consideration of others goes both ways.